Welcome to the F50 Woman Podcast, dedicated to sharing stories from a diverse community of women in order to provoke you into a passionate pursuit of life, build unshakable character, and achieve extraordinary things. Now, here is your host, Julia Jack.
A noted TEDx speaker, author of Ohio House Bill 50, she was a daughter of poverty in a country where expectations of young women like her was low. But she wanted more. She wanted to learn. When she came to the United States, the compassion of her teachers affected her so much that she would eventually become a teacher and live a life of compassion. Come in and listen to Leila Kubesch's story. How the idea of never having lunch alone moved her outside her box and completely changed a life. Come and hear a wealth of amazing advice from this learned, loving, and wise F50 woman.
Hey, F50 women. Thank you so much for joining again today. We are with Leila Kubesch. Leila is the 2020 Ohio Teacher of the Year and Toyota National Family Teacher of the Year. Leila speaks on family and youth empowerment and advocacy and resilience. And I think even more today, Leila, that is just so incredibly needed. So thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I enjoy many of your episodes whenever I get the chance. So I'm happy to be here.
Nice. Good. Another listener. Yeah. Thank you. So let's just get to know you as a younger woman or a younger girl so we know where this passion came from and where this all started. So tell us about you, what you wanted to be, who you were.
Yeah. I grew up in North Africa. We had very little. And as a teen, I was not into marriage planning like the other girls in the neighborhood. I cared less about knitting, sewing, and cooking. I wanted to learn. But in school, the expectation from people like me coming from poverty was very low. So when I struggled, and I thought Arabic was extremely hard, I could barely speak it. My parents were in the Peace Corps, so I attended a public school with the locals. And my teacher would say, get a mop and a bucket. It's a phrase to say that cleaning is your lot in life.
Really?
I had nothing against cleaning, but I wanted to learn. When we came to the US, I was 17. I was enrolled in the 11th grade, and all I knew was numbers. I could count in English, but that was it.
Okay.
But I understood my teachers. I loved their kindness, the compassion, and they showed it to me in ways I have never seen it before. And I loved them. And I think that's the reason why I went to do teaching.
Okay.
I remember a conversation with my mother. She let me know one day that, I didn't know how to cross stitch, cook, sew, knit like everyone else. And right away, I became perfectionist in everything I did. I was striving for her approval to make up for not knowing the things she valued or even caring to learn those skills. And, it reminded me of one of your episodes with Mary Morales, who said she turned to perfectionism and how she strives to become perfectly imperfect. And that was the result of her not being understood. Like people did not understand that at that time, she could not hear. So she was mistaken as rude when she didn't have the hearing. For me, I was not accepted as an aspiring learner, and I needed to fit in this mold who should get married early on when I was too curious about the world to be interested in dating. And also when I was growing up, I witnessed a lot of failed marriages and domestic violence. My father was traveling a lot and he was absent. So deep down, I was scared of relationships. And I had this belief that, you get this engagement ring, wedding ring, suffering, like I passed. But I couldn't say that to my mother.
Yeah.
So that's about the childhood.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So you came from North Africa, and I'm just curious what part of the United States you landed in.
Kansas.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It
Okay.
was so cold. I remember crossing the street one time and my eyelashes were shut right. I was in the middle of the road.
Wow.
Um,
And
yeah.
18 years old. And you knew
17.
how 17 and you knew
Yeah.
how to, you understood, and you said you understood English, or did you said you understood your
No, I
teachers? You
did
just
not understand.
understood who they were and their compassion.
Yes, kindness you can really understand.
Okay.
You can feel it. And I just
Yeah.
love the American teachers.
Okay. So you felt accepted. You didn't
Yeah.
feel, okay, good.
Yeah, I
That's
did.
good. Okay. And so that's who you were as a younger woman. So I'm going to jump over some of that, what I call the meaty middle, and just understand who you are now. Now you're a teacher. So tell us what you do now and why you're so passionate about what you do.
I didn't go to teaching right away because
Okay.
I didn't feel that I had what it takes.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I went to work for the airlines, and when you go to anywhere with this kind of rejection, you try to numb it with whatever you can. And I remember Mary Morales talked about drinking, and for me, I had no options. I remember my grandmother one time she sat me down and made me promise never to drink, to smoke, or do anything that would harm me.
Okay.
And I didn't realize it at the time because her children struggled with drinking. And so what I did is I put my heart and soul into work as this perfectionist, and I put in 16 hours a day of work. I didn't mean to, but for me to gain acceptance when colleagues asked me they didn't want to come to work or they didn't want to show up, I took on their shift. I didn't want to, de-icing the aircraft at 4 o'clock in the morning. That was awful. Baggage, that was heavy. Ticketing on some days, that was intense.
Yeah.
My heart was not in it. I felt this void despite the perks of free uniforms and free travel. So I went back to the university to get a dual degree. So I got master's in education and then a teaching license. And I loved the children.
Okay.
What I love about working with middle schoolers, it's their brutal honesty. You can learn more from them than any college class.
Wow. Okay.
I will share a lesson that had a profound impact. One day, an 8th grader sat me down and she told me how much she hates it when teachers and parents say a student is an A student. They're like, why?
Okay.
And she explained, and she says, when you don't get an A, your world crumbles. It impacts your identity. You cannot take risks. You have to take this path where you can have this guaranteed A. And she shared with me one time how she said a boyfriend dumped her right before an exam and she got an F. And her parents were so concerned they came to her school to search her locker thinking she got into drugs.
Oh, gosh.
And that was the last time I ever called a student a straight A. I listened.
Yeah.
So my path became teaching acceptance.
Wow. Young people speak and we think, oh, you just don't understand.
Yeah.
But they, like you said, I think they just really tell us what's truly in their heart. And us denying it over and over again teaches them to either stop talking or start denying themselves.
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Your grandmother sat you down and made you promise.
Yeah.
And so that promise seemed to work out well.
I kept it. At my age, later, 57 years old, I've never touched alcohol, cigarette.
Yeah.
Never. I could have smoked because both of my parents smoked. So, but I didn't.
Okay.
I kept that promise.
Okay. And how do you think that helped your life or challenged your life, or did it at all?
Well, when you have someone, I think when somebody asks you to make a promise, you feel like you have this pact, you have this commitment.
Okay.
And I think it was part of resilience, knowing that someone cared. Doesn't matter how far, that doesn't matter, that she's no longer with us. You feel like, you are connected, you have someone.
Okay.
And so the topic of acceptance became really profound for me.
Okay.
I learned from 26 years of teaching, when we teach, we can teach acceptance. When we teach it, then they have the sense of belonging and they become leaders. When they don't, they become followers by being people pleasers.
Okay.
And I knew this early on. I was very when I graduated, it was the middle of the year in December, but I was very lucky to get a job in the middle of the year in January in a farm area in Indiana. I was extremely lucky. I was working for a teacher left on maternity leave.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a story. I didn't hear it. I wasn't there. About a mom who came into school one morning. She was angry with her daughter. She had a robe. She put curls in her hair. She put a facial mask, and she came with a curling iron. And she came to humiliate her daughter, an 8th grader. She was angry, and she said, she left a mess, her area like that. And what I was really surprised is how all the teachers loved that parent and said, we need more parents like that. And I actually could not articulate that in any language that I speak, but I felt like something wasn't right. Of course, I did not know who this girl, but I heard about this story.
Right.
And one day, this girl, I get to know them. She was an 8th grader and she stayed after class. And she told me, I don't know if you heard about it, but I'm the one who my mother came like, I am so sorry. I wish that didn't happen. And she burst into tears.
Wow.
And she said, if you were my teacher a few weeks ago, I would have never done what I did. I'm like, I sat there quiet. She told me about this boy who was in high school, because it's a 7th through 12th grade, that he came to her and he says, you want you to be, I understand you're not accepted. You deserve to be accepted. And she said she ended up doing what he asked, and she became pregnant and didn't tell her parents. But the reason she did that, she was longing for acceptance. Because she was in the cafeteria, she would clean other people's tables. She would put their, she really turned into a doormat for everyone. And then I saw the impact of, I think imposter syndrome, we're not born with it. I think it's induced. And I think it comes from the people, it comes without, they don't mean it, but it comes maybe in the best intention, like my mother trying to say, well, you need to do this and make sure you secure a husband by learning how to cross stitch. And this girl, maybe her mom is trying to teach her to be tidy. But I think whenever we need to have more compassion in our language. And it's not just for children, but for adults.
Yeah.
And I remember that story, like about that girl. She would have never done something that was against her values.
Yeah. Wow. It breaks my heart a little bit because it's just a need. And so what comes to mind is, how do we, as parents, as older women who are really the matriarchs of our communities and our families, how do we extend that type of acceptance? Because we're just trying to help our children to do what we want them to do. That's probably not so great because it's a control thing. But how do we do that? Because I know in my life, I have, young women who I don't know what they're crying for and I can't pull it out. So I'm just going to throw that on the table. It's just.
You will never go wrong when you talk to your child, but keeping their dignity intact.
Yeah. Okay.
That is one. And always finding ways to empower them without pushing the values. How can I support you? What would it take? Allowing them to pursue happiness and also be very safe. The well of love is never empty.
Right.
At times it feels,
I love that. I'm going to write that down. The well of love is never empty.
At times it feels siphoned, because I found that overnight a well is not going to be emptied. It's not going to dry up overnight. And sometimes students come to me and they say, I had a great relationship with a friend. The next day, nobody's talking to me. Well, as an expert, I know what happened is that creating what do you call this, a smear campaign, and it doesn't mean that the person didn't deserve love or kindness. Sometimes it's jealousy, sometimes it's control. It is a form of bullying.
Yeah.
And what I found you can do, is to have the courage to be disliked.
Okay. Have the courage to be disliked.
Correct.
Okay.
This person, this student who went and gave something to this boy that she didn't want to, hoping that he would like her, is to have the courage. That's fine. You don't have to like me. These are my value. If you respect me, means I'm a whole package with these values. Yeah. As a new teacher, I really wanted to be accepted, partly because I didn't study in the US. I don't look like anyone in my school. I don't represent the culture. And there was one person I really looked up because she taught, she's about to retire. And I did everything she asked me, but deep down, I didn't feel like it was right. Like, she always encouraged me to write a referral. And one day she came to me and told me to write a referral for a student. But I was confused because that kid was so good that day. And then I realized, because she's upset with that student, she was trying to get me to punish. And I thought, I don't want to do someone else's dirty work. I have a great relationship. And I didn't. And that's when I came up with this belief that sometimes you do have to, instead of me working to be liked and to be a follower, but suddenly our values clashed. I no longer want to do everything she asked me because it doesn't feel right. Now I can, I have some experience to say relationship and teaching is everything.
Yeah.
And so I didn't find it doable. And that's when I thought, this is when I will have to have the courage to be disliked. And, what do you do when you're in an environment where you feel like you're not accepted? Because we all want to be accepted more than anything. And unfortunately, we are in a culture where people won't come and tell you, well, you can do that, maybe you're not doing this. Or like for me, when I came to the US, I couldn't do eye contact. I cannot maintain eye contact because in my culture, where I grew up, eye contact is when people look down is the highest form of respect. And I remember I was in sixth grade, and my teacher one day taught about the Holocaust, and he said, well, there were 6 million that were persecuted, but I didn't know what a million was. And he said it in a very monotonous voice. So I thought if I look at his eyes, I would understand how big this number is, like how much is a million? I thought, even one is a lot. And when I looked at him, our eyes met. And so he came to me, and without reading from his notes, he slapped me across the face so hard that my cheeks stung, my tooth ached, and my head hurt so much. But I still did not know what I did wrong.
Right.
But I remember later on one day, our neighbor came and she was talking about, her son is gonna and propose to this person. She is wonderful. I'm like, what? What's wonderful about her? Mm-hmm. And children are never supposed to be around when adults are talking. So I took the broom and I decided I'm going to start sweeping the floor. Yeah. I really wanted to know, what is it? This is amazing. And she said, well, she is so good. The girl's name is Najwa. Najwa is so good that and so polite, respectful. Of course, I think polite and respectful, it's the same word. But anyway, and she's polite and respectful that when you're talking to her, she will keep her eyes on the floor. I'm like, whoa. This is my culture, and I didn't know. Yeah. And ever since, I couldn't do eye contact. Okay. So when I came here, people say, well, if you want to get a job, you want to maintain eye contact. I'm like, are you kidding? What, is this a trick? Of course I cannot do that.
No, you're just trying to get me fired.
It is. Yeah. But then I really identify with children who get punished. One day a fourth grader he's African-American boy. And his teacher, who was Caucasian, she was angry at him. She was, look at me in the eyes. And I paused. I was passing by her classroom like, I feel like the African-Americans, they are a time capsule coming from motherland, because in many cultures, eye contact is the highest form of disrespect.
Yes.
So ideally, instead of people being upset with you and says, when you don't look at me, I feel like you don't care. That way I get the chance to say, actually, I don't do that because I have so much respect for you.
Yeah.
But people don't take the time. They just get mad at someone and they create this campaign smear. And, if you're mad at someone, you need to get everyone else mad. I think it's a culture. And to me, I see it as a form of bullying.
Yes, it is. It absolutely is.
Absolutely,
That is a form of bullying when we say, I'm not talking to her, so you guys aren't talking to her.
Mm-hmm.
It is a form of bullying.
It is. It happens in the adult world. It happened in the workforce because I have a lot of clients come and talk to me and says, Leila, I need your insight. Can you help me? And then you say, if you're in the work and you said you left on good terms, and the next day you're finding that people sending you an email with one word and you send a long email and then like, yeah, fine, or thanks. And like people are this like, what happened?
Yeah.
And so how do you rise above that when that happens? When let's say you're a student or you're an adult, what do you do?
Yeah.
So instead of trying to go and drink from this well that's been siphoned on your behalf, it doesn't mean that the whole world and love and care dried up. Right. You refill your own well. You can go somewhere else and find others who will empower you and will support you. I'll just give you an example. A month ago, I went to a conference in Orlando. It was the National Speaker Association. Now, I've never been to one, but I felt like the learning was profound, a lot of learning. And then I talked to someone and said, we need to have a mastermind. And I go, that's a great idea. So we went, I found 3 other people, and now we meet on Friday for 1 hour. And all we do is support each other. Like one person says, I wrote a book and I can't get anyone to know about it. I'm like, what? I have 20,000 followers on LinkedIn. I don't use it for anything. I will announce about it. Tell me what you want and I'll put it there. And we found that all of us come with our own cultural gifts. All of us, we have gifts. All of us have, on days you feel like I have nothing to offer or whatever it is, we have that negative language. Yes. You have so much to offer. Yeah. And if somebody doesn't want it, it doesn't mean you're rejected. You move on and surround yourself by empowering people. And I found when I empower other people, it just absolutely gives me so much joy in ways that I can't even explain. Yeah. Years ago, I went to this conference and one guy says, he's actually the vice president for Toyota. And he said, he never eat lunch alone. And of course, I took this to, when you're at work, always have lunch with your colleagues. So there were times when I would travel a lot and I'm not going to eat lunch alone. So I would take a homeless and invite him to come to lunch. And one young man in Columbus, he was in the building of the Ohio Education Association, and I came in the morning and he just jumped, he got scared. He took his blanket and put in his backpack and says, hey, come and meet me at 4, we can have dinner. 4:20, he wasn't there. I'm like, oh no, I was stood up. But then he came, he goes, well, I didn't think I could trust you, but I will trust you. And we went, says, I'm vegetarian, I'm gonna take this, and goes, I'm vegetarian too. So I thought, wow, this is amazing. Wow. And I heard about his story, and he was a college student working for a great place, American Eagle at the mall. And he said one day he was accused by a cop for loitering, and that police record caused him to lose his job, lose his school, lost the car, could not afford it. And so what I did was, he says, well, what would it take? What's one way to help you move forward? And he goes, well, I need to get expunged. I said, okay, your homework is to find out how much that is. And I send a check to the building, the OEA fund. Somebody says, go and meet this person, get the check. $50, I made the check to the court. And this was like during the lockdown at the courthouse. He went in and he got it expunged. And now he works. And to say it was such a little thing that we have done. And to say, I think being accused is a form of rejection. And so
Yes.
I took that really to heart, because we all know you haven't lived if you were not accused of something.
Yeah.
But because that saw it as acceptance, it touched me very deeply. And I saw this young man as so religious, and had so much faith. And says, God will send me an answer. I'm like, I think maybe he sent me. So dig the chip and we still communicate. He always roots for me, and I hope you're doing well, Miss Leila. And I found that to be so invigorating. And when you feel like everything goes wrong, and you feel like every door is shut in your face, and every window is closed, and every crevice is sealed, it only means is like, how high can you jump? And it just means you have to rise to newer height.
Yes.
And do something. If nothing else, do something for someone else.
Someone else. Yeah.
And it will bring you joy, and it will help you move forward.
Yes. And change a life. I think that's such a powerful blessing, because it takes courage to see a homeless person, because, you drive by them, you walk by them, you ride by them, however you move, and you just assume they're something else. You don't see them as people, just like you, intelligent. They have desires, they have needs. And the fact that you would have lunch with homeless people, if somebody told me don't have lunch alone, I'm looking for a buddy or a neighbor or somebody familiar and comfortable, rather than going outside my comfort zone and saying, who are you? And what do you need? And what are you looking for?
Yeah.
Or
tell me your
here's
story.
a meal. Yeah. Tell me your story. Yeah.
We talked, we took pictures of each other, and says, and he's working, and I says, I want to come, and we can go and find an apartment for you, and I'm going to celebrate. So we celebrate each other. And, you can surround yourself with people with hope. Yeah. And, if you cannot find support, to give it to someone else, and it will come back to you in so many different ways.
Yes. And this is all a story about courage. It's all courageous, all of these things. Courage to be disliked, courage to go outside of your boundary. And as a woman, there's a homeless man. Most of us are thinking, oh, he might hurt me. But, when you go in faith and you go in belief that these are people and I'm protected, I am so inspired. I'm just going to tell you, I'm so inspired. Don't eat lunch alone. I'm going to see my whole don't eat lunch alone differently, because, I could just sit at my desk and work. Yeah. But that is the ultimate giving. And, I'm always trying to figure out, how do we change the world? And that is how we do it. One person at a time. Yes. Yeah.
But now I can really understand the impact of a police record. I had no idea that he could. A lot of time people look at the homeless and think of them as lazy. Yeah. But I saw a lot of foster youth, when they left and they get accused of whatever, get a charge of loitering, that is like a sentence.
Yeah.
How do you get a job when you have that record?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're creating a problem.
Yeah.
You're thinking they're the problem, but you are creating the problem by putting that record on them. Now they can't be productive. Yeah. Now what do I do?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So along this incredible journey of courage and that acceptance, did you have anyone? I know you talked about your grandmother. That was one person you talked about who gave you a great push with that promise you made with her. But was there anyone else who helped to mentor you, inspire you? I know this homeless gentleman is an inspiration without him purposely trying to be. Is there anyone else?
I learned from him. A lot of the time it's my students who, when the girl told me about, if I were in her life any sooner, she wouldn't have done that. Yeah. Or the other one who says, being told that I'm an A student, then I'm not going to take a chance on taking a risk of being in any club or anything that might jeopardize my grade.
Yeah. Right.
And, so really, they are the inspiration. I learned so much from them. And then I feel like, I need to be this voice, go out, I'm a speaker, and go out and share the message to say, this is what I was told. This is what
Yeah.
we need to do. Compassion for your children. On days you're very angry, go do something else. Go count to 1,000.
Yeah.
And then you will never regret the mean things you never said.
Yes. You'll never regret the mean things you never said.
Yeah.
Yes. Have you ever had that little voice of doubt? You're a speaker, you have a message, acceptance. Sometimes there's forces that want our message not to get out.
Are
Have you
you
ever
kidding?
had that?
I
And how do you?
had,
Yeah.
oh my God, I went to speak to my lawmakers in 2013 because I was teaching at a high school and I had a lot of my students who became homeless.
Okay.
And I did not know, they kept saying they're aging out. Like, I don't know, why are they talking about aging out? They're young. Why are they talking about? I learned that when they age out at the age of 18 in Ohio, they became homeless and then they never came back to class.
Yeah.
And so I thought, I have an idea. I'm going to go talk to my lawmakers and let them know about the situation. And they stood me up and I was going down the stairs. It was the courthouse on the 4th floor. And I remember there was an elevator on the right side and a set of elevator on the left, but I went straight and took the stairs because I was afraid that I would go inside the elevator and I'd start crying because I got stood up.
Yeah.
And I was taking down the stairs and I told myself, why is it that teachers don't have no voice? And all of a sudden I couldn't go down the stairs. Like my back and my knees were hurting. And I looked up and I realized that I was coming down the stairs, not going up. And then I told myself, they will hear from me. I have no idea what I meant. I think I said that just as a consolation. And I ran downstairs, went to my car, came to my house and stood in front of my computer. And I wanted to know, how can I tell the world? How can I don't have to tell the world? How can I tell my state about this? And I saw an audition for a TED Talk. So I thought, I have greater chance of being hit by lightning. Like, no, I cannot say negativity because I saw what happens when I say mean, negative things. I couldn't even come down the stairs. So I applied and I was told there were 112 who applied, but I made it to accepted part of the 15 people to do the audition. Okay. And I went in and I said, I started like, oh my God, I hope my English doesn't suck. I really can do this. And I thought, no, I cannot say this. I will be fine. And I know I can't fail these kids. And I ended up winning Audience Choice Award. And I did the TEDx talk. And I used that talk to get House Bill 50 to pass in the state of Ohio so that foster youth used to be emancipation at the age of 18 to make it go until age 21.
Wow.
So I learned that because I think it was the universe or God or destiny that I got stood up, because if I wasn't stood up, I was trying to solve the problem in my own community by saying if we can do a better intervention and guide these kids before, they become homeless. But then after that happened, then all of a sudden I'm not happy with that. That was not enough ask. I wanted more than that. Yeah. And I was able to find like-minded. And to me, like these people who did not accept me, rejected my idea, thought I was a nobody for a teacher. And like those people siphoned my well for this loving thing that I had. And I thought, how can I have something so noble and yet I don't have a voice? And I found it doesn't matter how noble your idea is. Somebody somewhere is not going to like what you have to say. Mm-hmm. And so by able to get the so many supporters on a state level, statewide, to get these signatures and get this bill to pass. And it did pass. And now, even I tell my students, remember the story Mulan, when she says 1 grain of rice can tip the scale? Yes, you have a voice. You need to keep speaking until you get what you want. And again, that is a rejection because some people didn't like my ideas and I was not accepted among those people. Mm-hmm. I don't need to be with them, then go somewhere else and be with those who will support your values.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my goodness. That's amazing. That a whole bill was passed.
Yes, an entire bill passed.
Thank God they didn't show up. Thank you for not showing up. Yeah. Sometimes it's good when they don't show up.
I remember making business card. I even bought a suit for this interview with my lawmakers, and I was devastated. I felt this lump in my throat and I was just going to cry, but no, it just means there's something else better out there in store.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter how many accolades or, there's this imposter syndrome. I don't wake up in the morning thinking I have self-esteem at all.
Right.
But I go with this, I have this phrase in my mind where I say, maybe I don't know how to do this, or maybe I don't belong here. But I say, when there's a will, I don't say there's a way, because I need to know what that way is.
Yeah.
I say, when there's a will, there's a new skill. What do I need to learn?
Right.
Who do I need to learn that from? How can I connect so that I can make the impact that needs to be done?
It's like you never take no for an answer. It sounds like you're just like, no is not a thing.
And no is not a thing. No means it's a process of elimination. That's what I see it as.
Okay. Yeah. So how did you get this mental attitude? How did you get, courage and acceptance? I know through your students, you learned it along the way, but there's something to being able to, where there's a will, there's a new skill. That's not, everybody doesn't have that. Yeah. I
decided to have the courage to be disliked. I'm not going to sit there and people please people, because I did it for so long and it didn't take me anywhere. Yeah. When I was trying to please this teacher to be my mentor and then ask me to punish kids who are good, like, oh, I can't do that.
Yeah.
I'm not going to, at the end of the day, I have my conscience. Unfortunately, I have to sleep with.
You have to sleep with yourself. Yes.
I have to sleep. I can't. It's not like I can take my shoes and socks. Like, oh, I'll take my conscience until next day. I can't do that. Yeah. So there was this strong value that I couldn't. And my grandmother says, "Don't do harm to yourself." And I saw that as harming myself, as the guilt, and I couldn't do it. It was so wrong. I could have been that kid, and at one point, I was that kid. Okay. So at this point, like, no, we need to have boundary, and you create your own boundaries to say, I will do anything for you, but this is not one of those.
Right. Have you met young people who are or seem to have a seared conscience? And why do you think that is, if so?
It comes from a lot of hurt and a lot of let down and broken promise and a lot of put down.
Okay.
That they have not learned how to love, because, you cannot teach what you don't know. You cannot give what you don't have. And so the way I do that is by giving them what I believe, even if when an adult mistreats me, it's okay. I can move on. But when a student does, I feel like, that kid needs something and I could be the only one that can help. I work with adults too. I will do whatever I can. But you don't want to empty your basket, of wellness for this person. Maybe they're not ready for it. But when they're in my classroom, there are so many different ways that you can do. Yeah. And so that, with all these knowledge and all these skills, I want to go out and be the speaker I want to educate, to elevate. I want to inspire and empower, to say, yes, there is another way. I can share with you all these different ways that I have done that. It's all about the mindset.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I want to for the world. I've seen in the last, I'd say 3 or 4 years, at least from my perspective, that there's a severe lack of character. I'm just going to say it. It feels like there's something getting lost or missing. There's so many baskets that are empty and we need to fill them up.
Yeah, and sometimes they get emptied for us. They get emptied on our behalf, whether it's an accusation or bullying or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then you feel like I'm going nuts, just like in the story about when I went in and I got stood up. I actually saw that person come, but I was looking at one door and he was walking down like a gorilla, coming down and hunching down. But I saw. So that person was there.
Yes.
And that's why it hurt me so much, because I waited for 3 months for this and I worked so hard and I was afraid for my English and I bought a suit when I really could not afford it. And I'm like, great, now I wore it and it's not like I can return this. Right. And it wasn't for me to have the financial means to be able to do this. It could have just been honest with me and not done that. Yeah. So I was really profoundly hurt. And I was going to leave thinking that everyone doesn't care. And I said that. I said, why is it not? Nobody ever listens to teachers. And I thought about these students, a lot of them are African American. I said, look at me. I have an education and I'm struggling to speak on their behalf. What would it be like for them?
Yeah.
And so thinking about that, and I just started probably wailing in the stairs by myself. And I says, no, they will hear from me. And that's because with ongoing and continuous, that people end up giving up. And we can refill the well. Don't count it on other people to do it for you. Do it for yourself.
Yes.
And like what I did is I went and get some people. I said, we're going to create a mastermind. Like, okay, Leila. And now they love it. And we meet once a week for an hour. We don't get to everyone. We just like 15 minutes, but we leave wanting more.
Okay. And talk about this mastermind. You created this mastermind, and how is it structured so others can create these masterminds too, who might have lost that love in that other group?
Okay, we want to go and empower other people through talks. We meet once a week, and then we empower each other how they need to do that. So, for example, I said, one of the things I'm really good at is as an African, I'm really good at sharing stories. And the reason why I started telling stories, because when I told people statistics about how 1,000 child each year in Ohio will become homeless, nobody cared. Nobody cared. So I learned that statistics don't sell, but stories do.
They do.
So I says, then you weave it, share it as a story. Drop the statistics. You can weave it in, but don't use that as your main course. Have that as someone like a side dish or something.
Yes.
Definitely include that. Or if they want to do a TED Talk, I can coach you because I served as a coach. I can certainly help you express yourself and through your body language.
Mm-hmm.
And then we meet. And so we put in our goals in the chat. And then basically, how can I help you achieve your goals? Because a lot of the time, like when a person goes, well, I'm trying to sell this book. Nobody knows, like, oh, I have 20,000 followers on LinkedIn. Yeah. That is something I can do very easily. So we look at each other's assets and how can we empower each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so find people that you admire. And, one person said, if you are the smartest in the room, run for your intellect. Run like...
Right. Run, yeah.
Run like you're like that very warm spot that is not heaven. Run. Yes. And it's true. You want to be... I surround myself with people who are so amazing and so good at what they do that it feels intimidating.
Yes.
And that's how you keep your aspirations, you keep your motivations, you keep expecting. I tell myself, okay, well, sure, today was not my perfect. I don't want to do perfect, but today's best will be better tomorrow.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
And seek them out. Good people will give their time and say, yes, absolutely, I have so many skills I'm happy to share with you, whatever it is, whether it's parenting that can help you, whether it is as a teacher or whatever it is. I have all these sets of skills. I should go out and speak and I used to worry about, my English is not perfect. There was never a time I helped the homeless and said, no, sorry, come back when your English improves. We all have so many things to give.
Right.
So stop being self-critical and give the best that you have to elevate and empower someone else.
Right. Yeah. That's that perfectionism again. Stop trying to be perfect and just be you.
Yeah.
Because you'll find that everybody else feels imperfect too.
Oh, yeah.
When they see you doing it and saying, well, I was worried about my English, you're like, oh, I'm worried too. You can do that. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes I say, well, I have an interview and like for the teacher of the year, I had to go to an interview and I said, I don't know, I'm so scared. She goes, be yourself. Like, what is it supposed to mean? Be yourself. They don't want me to be myself because for me, myself, I'm wearing plaid over plaid, I'm probably not speaking English, my hair is in every direction. So no. And then I learned be yourself mean be the best that you can in that environment and relax and not be critical of yourself.
Yes. Yeah. Wow. So if you now met you as a younger woman or a girl or a younger age, what is the one piece of advice you would like her to have had?
To not hold on to all the negativity that's out there and share joy and share kindness, and good things will come.
Okay. And do you think she would have listened?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like you were ever a fighter of wisdom and truth.
No, I grew up as a very obedient, being a female in Africa. I was, but I found that it just didn't work for me.
Yeah.
I did it, but then I saw this sense of unfairness. And then, of course, how convenient it is. We don't have a word for unfair or unjust in our language. So,
Oh, you do not?
oh, no, there is like, oh, no, and then, so, and of course everything is against women. I shouldn't be well-read. Being inquisitive is not good. It's bad. It's not something about bad for your own good or something like that. And I said, like, no, you want to learn, you want to educate yourself, because that's one thing you cannot lose.
Yeah.
All that knowledge.
No one can take it from you.
No one can take it. There was never a time I took a class and I wish I woke up this morning. I wish I did not learn it. If I could only be a little stupid, that would be really good.
Nobody ever wakes up. Nobody ever wakes up like that.
Nobody ever does that. So yes, definitely educate yourself, learn everything that you can, make the most of your time, and connect yourself with empowering people.
Yeah. Do you feel like where you came from in North Africa has changed at all in terms of women and their perspective?
I don't know.
Okay.
I have no idea.
I'm just curious.
I don't know. Maybe things
wonder how culture shifts if, the world coming in through the internet and everything, if things are shifting in different areas for the better or sometimes the worse.
I don't know, because when I went back years later to my grandmother, she saw me eating pizza with my fingers and fries with my finger, and she screamed like, "Oh my God, you go to America, you savage now." And I'm like, and I thought, and I think in my head, like, oh gosh, these people are so prissy, so sometimes you have really reverse culture shock.
Yes.
And I thought, I don't know, maybe I'm intended to not belong anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. You're just, wherever you go, you're meant to shift and change wherever you go.
Yeah.
Which is a good thing, because we need change. We all need change.
And empower as many people along the way.
Yeah.
And make great friends that way, and empower those, and hopefully to see them rise so much and they can pass it on and pass it forward to someone else. And that's how we're going to have a better world.
Absolutely. So, Leila, what's next for you? What is in your vision? What's coming up next? Give us a little preview so we can.
I working on a book because for educators, where I felt like we need to shift from this lack mindset, and we need to see the community and the children we work with as coming with their own gifts. And I want to speak as many schools, as many communities, to empower and share the stories of success and share how you can empower. And a lot of it is really about mind shifting.
Okay.
We cannot keep doing things for people. We need to let them rise. And we need people to take a chance and make mistakes. I think I mastered mistakes. A lot of times it's because of all the mistakes that I have. I made so many mistakes. If I could run away from myself, I'd be like the cartoon leaving only the dust behind. I sometimes frustrate myself. But I learned, I learned the hard way. And I think that is what makes us wise.
Yeah. Do you feel like young people today are finger-fed too much stuff?
Yeah, because we don't want them to make mistakes that we made, but we need to empower them and say, go and make mistakes, take a chance, learn from it. And, when you're making mistakes and you're meeting amazing people along the way.
Yeah. And you're learning. I am finding that more and more, the more stories I hear, I'm really believing that people have to make mistakes to learn from themselves. You can't save them from the world and sort of hold them above all the potholes, because then they're useless to themselves and others. Yeah. We just don't want them to make mistakes that they can never bounce back from. Yeah.
But if you go and you feel like, your English, your speaking skills are not good, then, what I did before I didn't have a mentor for speaking. I just went to the library and checked out 27 audiobooks. And I thought, well, how am I going to listen to this? I can't sit still. I'll go ahead and start painting the house. I paint something or go for a drive and listen. And that's how I improved speaking skills to be able to pass the audition for doing the TED Talk.
That's incredible. That's a lot of work. It mental work, because you have to continue to help your mind to grow.
Yeah, but that's a skill you will always have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And now I can always advocate.
Yeah.
Or I see something wrong, instead of being angry, I can advocate.
Yeah. So do you feel like learning English? And I'm asking that because, as you're saying, you learned how to speak through listening to videos. And when I heard you say that, I feel almost challenged. It's like it brings up an emotion, because I know I tried to learn how to speak Spanish and by watching TV shows in Spanish. And after maybe 20 minutes, it's like, oh, I feel so tired. Oh my God, it's so hard. It's like a lot of mental exercise, which is good. But I'm wondering if you learning the language, it helped you to build a muscle.
No, for me, when I to speak it, I had to interact with people. So
Okay.
I made mistakes with people too, because even when I was my first year I was teaching, I had a kid who I said, well, what do you like to do for fun? And he goes, well, I like to chase chicks. I'm like, oh, you live on a farm?
Oh, that's great.
And I realized it. And the kids laughed so hard.
Yes.
Like, oh, we need to teach you, Ms. Kubesch. So
Yes.
it's you learn by interacting with people. So when I came to the US, everybody wanted to practice Spanish with me, because I says, oh no, I'm African. He goes, no, Leila, you're very funny. I'm like, really? I don't speak it. Like, yeah, you should become a comedian. Like, so it was easy for me to just learn Spanish. I couldn't convince people that I'm not Hispanic. Even they say I'm African, like, yeah, well, you don't look African. Like, what else do you want me to do?
Yeah.
So I didn't argue.
Right. What do you want from me?
Yeah.
Tell you the truth. Yeah.
Well, I need to learn about my people. I went to Mexico and went to Guatemala and classes, and I was accepted, and it was fun. The irony now is I used to teach Japanese, and now I teach Spanish. When I won the Teacher of the Year, I won it as Spanish and ESL. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So how did you learn Spanish? Did you absorb yourself in speaking to
I took
people as well?
No, I went to
lessons.
university, and then I went to Mexico and Guatemala, and I lived with people so I can learn the hard way. The best way to learn anything is to really surround yourself with the very best. With here, I speak with people, make mistakes.
Yeah.
I was around a lot of military for my dad, and one of the things about the English language is all the cuss words are very easy to pronounce. They have no letter R, letter R.
Yeah.
And I thought, wow, the 4-letter word I didn't know what it meant, but I thought it was a very fascinating word, because it's one word that's a verb, it's an adjective, it's an adverb. It's like, I'm thinking about all these things. And I would start using this word in my vocabulary, because anytime I learn a new word, I need to use it in the context.
Right. Yeah.
And I got myself in trouble, because that's when I realized it was wrong. Does that mean I don't need to speak English ever again? No, it just means that I learned and won't do that again.
Yeah, you learned, and you know what to do and when to do it, and what not to do, when not to do that. Yeah. Yeah. So give us a couple of pieces of advice from your playbook. I know you're writing a book for teachers. Is there any other book that you would advise women to read? Women, mothers, teachers, anything?
Really, anything that you can is just remember, you maybe write it on a board, on your notes or everything, is build a relationship with your children, because you need to be the voice of truth to your children. And I don't mean truth as I'm going to tell you what it is and you're this and you're that. No, one year I was teaching 7th grader, and a mom came to me and she says, can you please don't talk about Christmas, because I want to keep my son to believe in Santa Claus. And I thought, wow, that is awful, because it's 7th grade.
Yeah.
And another girl, I remember, she came to me and she was so embarrassed in her one class, health education, because she thought babies come from the belly button. So her mom wanted her to know that. You want to be the voice of truth to your children.
Please,
you want to be the first to tell them about Santa Claus, about everything, because if you don't, then you lose credibility and they will go to other people.
Yes. And they may get very bad information.
Yes. And then they end up following the wrong crowd to make up for losing face and embarrassment. Be the voice of truth. Yeah. And also, always, like I said, you will never regret any kindness, any positive time. Yeah. It doesn't matter if you don't have money, go to the library, check out books and movies, go for a walk to the park, cook together. And a lot of times, sometimes parents get mad at their children, or even teachers get mad at children for not knowing the skill. If you didn't teach it, don't expect them that they know.
How are they going to know? Yeah.
Take the time. I was frustrated with my children. I thought for a long time, it's easy for me to do laundry. It's easy for me. And then I thought, no, I'm going to take the time and teach it. Yeah. But you end up doing more than teaching them the skill. You have the rapport. You created a relationship. You spent time together. Turn it into a positive experience. Summer, make lemonade. Celebrate working together. Celebrate achievement.
Yeah.
Celebrate success. And, you want them to be better than you are. We all want our children to be. We want them to achieve more.
Yes.
But we want to do it in a compassion and see what is it that they want to do.
Yes.
As well. For a long time, I had a cousin who wanted to grow up and be a Smurf. He just loved the Smurf,
Okay.
And so, okay, great. So you want to design videos and be the Smurf. So, say it in a compassionate way.
Yes.
And instead of constantly correcting them in front of other people and shutting them, you want to have the best relationship. Your child can be like your best friend.
Yeah. Yeah. Because
learn together, do things together, cook together.
Yeah.
Turn off that TV. It's not always the best information out there. Turn off.
Shut the cell phone off. Yep. You've got a whole lifetime worth of information that.
For me, with my children, I love them and trust them, but we had a culture before you go to bed. All the electronics need to be put in a cabinet in the hallway. Go to your room without any of that, because I don't want them to, whether to bully or be bullied or engage in. I want you to have a good night's sleep.
Yeah. Good night's sleep and let it all go. Yeah. That's a good habit, because it creates habits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Share a meal together.
Yeah.
Every night, share a meal together. That is one way.
Again, with no cell phones. The cell phones go away.
Yeah. Share a meal, cook a meal, struggle, learn something together, and share it and have a meal every night with your kids and talk to them about their day.
Yeah.
Also,
questions that they have to answer.
Yeah.
Without or no.
And I really watch what you're saying, because a lot of my students, when they get bullied, they stop telling their parents, because sometimes they will go and tell the parents, and the parents would say, well, you should learn martial arts. Well, but what you're telling your child is that they have to jump more hoops to be accepted. Okay. And being in martial arts is not going to help them, because they're not going to go and beat up someone.
Yeah.
Or sometimes parents would say, what did you do to bring this upon yourself? Right. Now the child starts wondering what's wrong with them.
Yeah.
And then they stop sharing.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to go and march in the principles and make things worse for them. Giving other strategies. What I do is, when my students tell me this, I say, all right, I want you to tell me, where did it happen? Let's find a pattern. Does it happen in the bathroom regularly? Does it happen in the hallway? Mm-hmm. And the reason why you want to ask them all these questions, it's not like you're interrogating them. But when they go and don't say, go talk to the principal, go talk to the counselor, because that's what they have time for that. And then what happened is, by giving them that language, then they can self-advocate and they can answer these questions when the counselor says it for them, ask them the question. Yeah. And so, what did you do about this? Well, you should do it. It takes years to learn martial arts. The problem is now. So then when parents say that, they look like they are being unrealistic, or they're out of touch with reality.
Out of touch, you don't understand, never mind, I won't tell you anymore.
Yeah. So let the child talk and let them, figure out how to answer.
Okay.
Empower them with speaking skills.
Okay. So I have two more questions. One, I just want you to tell the world, or tell the listeners, hopefully the world is listening, but tell the listeners how they can get in touch with you after this podcast is over, how they can hear that TED Talk
so they can understand and learn and advocate?
The TED Talk is called How to Dream Big and Pass It On.
Okay.
It's a TEDx Cincinnati.
Okay.
And if anybody wants to reach me, I don't have a website. I'm on LinkedIn, but I'm on Twitter, Kubesch at Kubesch Leila, but I'm happy to share my email too, because I'm happy to help anyone as long as I have the time. It's L as in Leila, and then C as in cat, and my last name, Kubesch at yahoo.com. And I wish you all best things for you and your families, and stay safe. I love all of you.
Yes. And my one last question that'll lead us out is, what is the one message after your life has come to an end? What's the one message you would like to leave for the world?
You will be empowered when you empower others. Because a lot of time we want people to understand us and to hear us. I think by being a friend to someone else, you will find a friend.
Yes. Perfect. Thank you so much, Leila, for joining us.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
You've been listening to the F50 Woman Podcast. Join the F50 Woman movement and this diverse group of voices to help change the world one woman at a time. Why should you join at your age? Because we're not done yet.